Grab a seat.
Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all keeping safe out there today. Today we're back with some more Final Fantasy VII Remake content, and to be honest, this video's pretty simple. I've basically got one thing to say. Tifa is the best character in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Period. Thanks for watching. I'm joking, but seriously. This video is a dedication to my favourite character in the game and a short video essay on why she is the best written character in my opinion in the game and why you should know. We all know Tifa is completely OP in terms of combat. It goes without saying that she kicks ass. The combination of speed, high attack power, a quick ATB gauge regeneration, and a lot of flexibility with her attack style make her easily the most fun to play with, and for most people, the most potent attacking member of your party. But from a narrative perspective, the way Tifa is presented by the game writers is not given enough attention in my opinion. And I'm just going to go through some of my favourite moments with Tifa and why I think that she's the most well-developed character in the game that allows you as the player to experience emotionally what Final Fantasy VII is really driving at. Looking at and experiencing the game's narrative through Cloud's eyes means that a lot of the impressions of Midgard's world and Avalanche's mission that the gamer receives is largely through the main cast of characters with whom he and we spend most of our time with. So the way a character is presented, from their mannerisms to their beliefs and loves, frailties and backstories, really matter in how Cloud and the gamer form a relationship not just with the story, but how emotionally invested they and we become in the objective. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, this objective is a fight for the planet, by destroying Shinra and later tracking down Sephiroth, while acting as a member of the eco-warrior resistance team Avalanche. For me, no character allows the gamer to experience the complexities and nuances of the world and your mission as much as Tifa does. Aside from being an old friend of Cloud, which should give her an emotional edge in communicating with him, she is much more willing than the other characters to display a range of emotions in different situations, which depicts her as a complex, thinking person, as opposed to the slightly one-noted personas of the rest of the core team. The best way to view this is by comparing Tifa to her counterparts in the game, namely Aerith and Jessie, the other two female characters. I'm not going to include Barrett in this simply because he is the most emotionally distant of all the characters. Despite his obvious single parent situation and his heartthrob daughter, most of his lines and directives kind of keep him emotionally distant, at least in a very generic way, from Cloud and the gamer. Cloud too won't be considered in this analysis simply because he is the protagonist and acts as the gamer, not to mention the fact he is very cold and reserved throughout much of the game emotionally. So starting with Jessie, who is one of the first characters Cloud meets in the game and is one of the three women vying for Cloud's attention, but probably in the most obvious way. Compared with the original, Jessie in the remake has a slightly larger narrative role to play and is a bit more emotionally fleshed out. She has her own missions, and particularly in Chapter 4 you get to meet her family and gain a sense of what drives her character. Her parents are Shinra employees, and she used to live the high life up on the above plate before realising that she wanted to fight for Avalanche and subsequently ran away to join them in Sector 7. Jessie feels fun and open, and though she clearly has some more complex range of emotional feelings given to her by her backstory, she presents a very bubbly and approachable exterior, which makes her fun to be around but can slightly mask the more complex features of her background that you come to understand. And even when we meet her in that situation, we don't really get a conversation where she elaborates and opens up on her past. The writers of Final Fantasy VII Remake probably thought that her background in acting would fight through and act as a mask for her family situation, or at the very least, it would accommodate for her extremely happy exterior. Either way, Jessie dies so early on in the game that it makes it difficult for the gamer to really feel attached to what her narrative was. And considering that this is only one part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, she's died very early on in the game. and in my opinion possibly too early on in the game for the player to feel a real sense of loss about her, particularly for those of us that don't have the sense of nostalgia without playing the original. Jessie is an actress, which contributes to the way her story is told, and explains why the game writers thought to present her as hiding something else. But the effect is that she can come across as a bit of a fangirl and a little bit two-dimensional in places. As a result, her role in the narrative can feel a bit more like a cameo rather than as a meaningful emotional part that the gamer can get interested in. Aerith is the poster girl for Final Fantasy VII, and is the love interest pitted against Tifa by most fan groups, and is indeed the girl that Cloud himself apparently decides to fall in love with. Although Aerith is obviously different from Jessie in a number of ways, not least in the fact that you can actually play as her, which always helps in the gamer's attachment to a character, she's very different to Tifa. Now, I understand the hype around Aerith, not least because she is super powerful in a fight, but as far as part 1 of Final Fantasy VII goes, again, for someone who hasn't played the original, she's very distant emotionally from the storyline for like 15 chapters. She's playful and bashful, but remains at arm's length from Cloud and the rest of the crew. When she helps out Avalanche after meeting them, again, even though she helps, she remains at a distance, despite being in close proximity with them. This is possibly because Aerith has something to hide, namely her status as an ancient, which we find out about later on in the game, and she possibly kept this information secret to keep everyone else safe. But even so, I found it difficult to empathise with Aerith on a human level, largely because of the way that she keeps her distance from Cloud and from the player. This is despite the fact that her childhood story about her mother being taken away and herself being orphaned and then adopted is very moving. I just don't think it lands very well when it's explained. The otherworldliness of Aerith contributes to a sense of alienation emotionally for the main character. She is human, and yet she finds it difficult to communicate with the rest of the group, partially because she's from a different race of magical people. I think it's totally okay if she's meant to be a distant character because of her divine magical essence, but it just makes it difficult for the gamer to associate with her on an interactive level, especially when, like Jessie, she comes across as happy a lot of the time, but when pressed on emotional issues is very unresponsive.
Okay, time to go.
Now, Tifa, on the other hand, is immediately presented as a complex character with a lot to hide. But unlike the other two characters, the fact that Cloud knows her personally allows us to discover more about her. Early on, we witness her express doubt about Avalanche's mission to blow up another reactor, which instantly gives us insight not only into the legitimacy of the black and white issues the game apparently presents early on, but the thinking nature of Tifa's personality. Other little things away from her backstory, like her hesitancy about Avalanche's mission in general, even after the destruction of Sector 7, and her die-hard fighting spirit as she drops all that she has to sprint up the plate tower in Chapter 12 to save Cloud, all contribute to a character that is clearly at odds with their world. Like the other female counterparts, she's smiley and bright initially, possibly in a way that's a little bit too JRPG, but the gamer can see that it's forced in a way that Jessie's performance is over the top, and Aerith's, well, is just her personality. Tifa is presented as a flawed character, not sure where her place is in the world, and it makes her extremely easy to relate to. She's fighting for a cause she might not fully believe in. She lives in a community that she's been in for about 5 years, but when she mentions it to Cloud, she seems to have completely lost track of time. It all amounts to an image of Tifa, who is searching and vulnerable, but not so much that you don't believe she won't kick the shit out of every Shinra thug in Midgard. She has principles, and unlike Barrett or even Cloud, she won't go too far. She'll fight when she has to, but doesn't tar everyone with the same brush, as we see in her little conversation with the Shinra employee on one of the trains. She stops Cloud striking down Johnny, and questions Barrett's attempt to kill innocent Midgard people, just because they don't subscribe to his worldview. She embodies all the warmth towards the characters and people and things that Cloud doesn't. Tifa represents the game's conscience. If Cloud is the gamer's view, then Tifa is here to guide you. She makes you question not only your role as Cloud in the narrative, but the very reasons for fighting, reasons that the rest of the game seems to be making very cut and dry. She represents moral ambiguity and restraint. She's kind-hearted, thoughtful, and insecure in places, but will take a stand when she has to, and will hold her friends back when she feels they're going too far. Tifa is the best character in Final Fantasy VII Remake because she is simply the most human of the lot. Where other characters aren't fleshed out or are necessarily restrained by the writers for now in Part 1, Tifa is not. Not only is she by far the most fun to play with from a gameplay perspective, but is the most relatable of all the characters, and that is super important to the story arc in general. For a game that is really only part of a bigger game, it makes sense that the writers would have wanted to restrain some of the story arcs of the other major characters, but this has an emotional impact on how the gamer feels about the world and how they engage in it. Luckily for us, Tifa has not been treated with that same caution, and we have a character that is fully formed and fleshed out that allows us to experience Midgard and doubt the Shinra world and its mission in a way that isn't just us good, them bad. As a result, her presence in the narrative makes the game so much more enjoyable because of it, and that is why Tifa is the best character in this game. And that's the video. I'm going to be posting a full review of Final Fantasy VII Remake in the coming weeks, as it's been out for a reasonable amount of time now, and I've had loads of time to play it. I hope you really like the content. Please consider dropping a subscription below and definitely liking the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your opinions in the comment section below. I can imagine lots of you have different feelings about the different characters and maybe why I left out certain people in the way that I did. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.